myself. I think we all know why we are here. Malan has been through a midlife crisis, and we're going to listen to him so that we don't have to. No, I'm joking. Thanks so much, Malan, for coming today and sharing a journey with us. That's one of the cool things about working in a co-working space is being able to share experiences with other like-minded folk. Cool. Over to you. We'll do your talk and afterwards the Q&A as usual.
Awesome. Mike, yeah. Thank you so much for the opportunity. Really appreciate it. I actually just came back from co-live in Tenerife, and I must say, I think you guys are even better than them. But it is amazing to share and to build community like this. So I'm going to really try and be 20, 30 minutes. She said 20 minutes. I said 30 minutes, and she was like, no, it's 20 minutes. But I'm going to really try and go as fast as I can through the stuff, not go into too much detail. And then afterwards, if you want to stick around, we can go through some of the details. But just quickly, my personal journey. So, I mean, it was like probably when I was 43 or something, 44, it started. It was like the weirdest time of my life. And it was, I call it a transition. And it's there's a lot of growth that happens in that time. And I was, looking for answers in all sorts of places. And I tried in all the right places. And I think I did a pretty good job at that. But in that time, I also got divorced. It was a really, really tough time. And just some background, I actually came to J-Bay in my time of healing. And I met a lot of amazing people, Bruce being one of them. And I spent a lot of time at the green room here. And, I just have a big love for J-Bay since then. And even before, but it's got more meaning for me now. So anyway, in my time of searching, around, what should I do in this time? I was like, if it wasn't for my business partner, I would have probably tossed away my business too. Luckily, I didn't. He was stepping in, but it was a really rocky time in terms of, who am I? And I asked all these questions, and then I stumbled onto, and I do feel that it was meant to be. I stumbled onto people that are now my friends, and I did a course with them. It was called the AHA course, because you wake up to a lot of things. And this is sort of what I want to share with you, is the structure of this course and what it's taught me. So, but before I do that, I want to just play this video from them. They are called Max and Jenny, and they run this AHA project. And I stumbled onto them completely coincidentally. I was dropping my kid off at they are friends, their daughter and my son, and I dropped them off, and we started talking, and one thing led to another. They basically, how she described it was like, we run a course for sort of people that like are in the midlife crisis, getting divorced, and like she was like, I'm like, that's all of it's me. So like, please let me subscribe, and I did, and it was an amazing journey. So they are now friends of mine, and I'm going to share that.
If you're here, then you're looking for you. You know you've got one shot at being you, and you want to make your precious life count. To express that thing inside you, to contribute, and to feel a part of something meaningful. But for whatever reason, things aren't happening in the way that you want them to. And you know that your outer struggles are a reflection of what's going on inside you. And you want to change this, to break free and to create an amazing life for yourself. So stick around, because by the end of this video, you'll realize not only that this is possible, but it's also your purpose.
First off, whatever frustrations you have, you're not alone. We all have a story about how we're not enough. No matter how successful, powerful, or together things appear, everyone has a story of being incomplete in some way. It's all part of our human journey. But it's not true. The truth is that you're not broken or incomplete. You don't need to fix yourself, and you haven't made any mistakes. You're actually exactly where you're meant to be. Imagine that. Your problem, which is actually a problem we all share, is that despite all our education, we weren't taught the basics of this human condition. We weren't taught how our minds work or why we think, feel, and act the way we do. We weren't given the right maps and frameworks to navigate this adventure and become who we truly are.
So here's the quick version. We're all here on a journey. The one that so many of our wisdom traditions and now modern science speak to. That at our essence, beyond all of our stories, our masks, our conditioning, we are a part of something far greater, beyond our personal human story. We're all part of the whole, here to experience the richness of life, to express our hearts, and to be a part of something. In fact, neuroscience shows that when you were born, you were literally at one with everything. You had no individual sense of self, no idea that you were you. And so to go on your journey, you needed to go through this process of separation. And you needed a separate vehicle so you could be you. Let's just call this vehicle your ego.
You must understand your ego and how it was created. It's the key to unlocking your potential. As vulnerable babies, way before we had rational cognition, we had basic needs for survival and belonging. Inevitably, not all of those needs were fully met. This isn't a mistake. It literally happens to all of us. But we experienced this as a wounding that felt painful in some way. And to cope with this pain, to handle it, we made up stories about ourselves, other people, and about life. Stories about how we're not enough, not lovable enough, or worthy enough, or safe enough, or strong enough, or perfect enough. All those stories of our ego. These stories embed themselves in our minds. They become our programs of thinking. In fact, we identify with them so much that we end up thinking we are these stories.
And this is a huge deal, right? Because timeless wisdom and neuroscience both show that your mind creates your reality. You become what you think you are. So if you think you're not enough in some way, you project that story onto your life now. And your life becomes that story, that not enoughness. It's just reflecting back who you think you are. So let's cut to the punchline here. Because if you're not aware of your ego story, which most people aren't, it's wrong. You might think you're living your life as a free and autonomous human being, but you're not. You're being run by your story. And it's why all great wisdom traditions have prized self-awareness as the foundation of all mastery. Because when you're asleep to your ego story, you're like a zombie, unconsciously fixated on resolving your childhood wounding and repeating the same patterns year after year, decade after decade, looking for answers outside of yourself. Until you reach the point that you realize there's no solution out there that's going to fix you. No person, no pill that's going to save you.
It's all in you. It's all in your mind. You're creating it all. Now, if you've got this far in this video, kudos to you. Because you've probably reached this point in your life. And that's exciting. Because the journey of waking up is the most rewarding, transformative adventure you'll ever go on. You were actually born for it. Waking up to your ego story and freeing yourself from it. Remembering who you are. Writing a new story. Your soul story. All about expressing what you love and creating your life from there. How much fun would that be?
So I was actually so sort of blind in terms of, I thought I did this.
For this, you don't try to be aware. You just need to turn.
Sorry, I think it's playing the next thing, Sadhguru. So anyway, that was a photo of me in a very, very happy place. But yeah, I was saying, like, I did this just before I got married. I did this course, and I couldn't believe that people thought differently than I did, which was like, you would think that people know that. Well, I didn't. I actually thought everybody thought the way I did, and I couldn't understand why people are, the way they are. But anyway, so I learned through life, and especially during this time, I learned that, people are completely different, and they have their own ego, and there's actually 9 categories of your, we call it our false beliefs, which I'll take you through. But it's so important to actually wake up to it. And this is a great quote from Carl Jung that says, until you make the unconscious conscious, it'll direct your life, and you'll call it fate. So that's what she said around being a zombie, and you'll just, continue your life, and your ego will run you. And I'll use some examples shortly. And then if you want the moon, do not hide from the night. So, and if you want a rose, do not run from the thorns. So what it takes to actually get to where you want to go, you have to face the hardships. That's where the growth lies. That's where the beauty lies, is in doing the hard stuff. And growth is a hard thing. It's not being in your comfort zone at all. It's completely the opposite. So there are 3 core pillars to actually getting to your, I call it your heart space. So very few people actually define what they actually want to do in life, what they truly want to achieve in life. They just go through their conditioning. I need to be a professor because this was, I need to be a doctor because at school I was taught that you need to be a good achiever, or I'm not good enough, so now I've got to counter that. But to write down specifically what you do in life is basically your heart or your kingdom. And what's holding you back is your false beliefs. And we'll talk about that. And then how to actually achieve and be close to your heart is by putting structure in your life, so in your day, and discipline. So that's the hard part, and not hiding from the night. Okay. So the first one is your false beliefs. So knowing yourself is the beginning of all wisdom, and the unexamined mind life is not worth living. I don't know if anyone here has done the Enneagram test before. Has anyone done psychological? Have you done it? What number are you,
So long ago, I think I was 9.
9. Okay. Anybody else? John, what are you? 9. Okay. So I'm not allowed to shine. Oh, you're 2. Okay. So there are 9 types, okay? And you've got maybe a little bit of each, most probably a little bit of each, right? Everybody's got some of, but you've got a primary overarching one, and then you've got a secondary and tertiary, right? And then you've got a little bit of the others. And you could actually do this test. It's online. I've shared some links at the end of the slide deck to give you a link of one that I recommend you do, and then you can figure out what yours are. But basically, they are your ego story. So what she explained was you in your individuation, when you were a baby, you were one with the world. When you are separated from your mother, you basically make up the story of yourself. And this story is a feeling, really. Like it's like, and Max, the presenter there, his one is I'm not good enough. So he did everything in his life to be the head boy, to shine, and like to make sure he's like the best at everything, and to look to the world that I've got this and I'm actually good enough. So he was resolving his ego all the time. He used this example of going to a wedding, and I use his example because mine is too complex to explain. Mine is really like I'm a 7, and it's really hard to explain, but we'll go through it and briefly. But he would go to a wedding and give the speech, be the best man, and he'll be so taken by what people are saying. At the end of the night, he would get the wedding because it's so important for him to say, for the other people that he just wants to know he's good enough. You know what I mean? Like it's resolving that ego all the time. So there's 9 of them. I'm not going to go through each one. I've got actually for each one I've got the false beliefs written down here. But I think that's something that's going to take some time. So if you're interested, we can spend some time afterwards, and we can go through them. So I'm not allowed to shine. I'll go through them very, very briefly. Avoid conflict. This one is, I think, the number 9, if I'm correct. Don't take much action, seeking peace and harmony. We can go through this, but yeah, it's one of mine. I think it's my 3rd one or my 2nd one as well. I'm not good enough. That one I explained. Overachieving, compulsive trying, attempting. I don't belong. This is also one of mine. Seeking to be attractive enough to be loved. Seeking to find out what's wrong with them and then cover it up. There's avoiding rejection. It's a typical one. I need to control myself, my space. This is pretty much typically, like they are almost like skeptical. I cannot trust others in the world. I see this a lot. It was so funny. I'll use a quick example. So we were driving in Germany with my sales guy, and we've got the same false belief primarily, but he's got this one. And he was like, we were driving in the taxi, and I could see he was getting annoyed, and I was like, "What's wrong with you, dude? Like, relax." And he said, "No, this guy's taking us for a ride. He's like, he wants to take extra." I was like, I didn't even think about it that way. He's like, skeptical, and like he's not trusting this person at all. And I'm over trusting sometimes, So it's a completely different. I don't have capacity. This one is mine. A very interesting one. I try and see the world in like they call it rose-tinted glasses. Try and see positive things. I like that of myself, but it also holds me back from seeing sometimes the reality of things. So I've got lots of FOMO. I can't look at a menu. I'm always worried about your food's going to be better than mine. It's the weirdest thing. I'm not worthy. Being a good person, doing things a worthy person, that's also quite a big one in a lot of people. I'm powerless. This is typical, the one that CEOs typically have. They like very controlling. They want to make sure that they control the outcome, and they're like quite dominating. CEOs typically have that one. I need to be perfect. I've got an employee working for me that's like that. It's a tough journey. Really, really trying to be perfect, and there's always a right way. Okay, so the next phase of this course. So I did this course with 13 people, 13 other guys, only guys, and the girls are sort of separate, also 13 ladies, and then you go through and share a lot. Online, it's all run online, and then they take you through this guided meditation to figure out what you actually want to achieve in life. And these are things like, it's principles in your life that you want to do. So one of mine is like, I want to be at the ocean. It's a simple one, the freedom and expansiveness of the ocean. And then I want to travel, cultural growth and experience. I can share some of mine, right? I want to have a deep, meaningful relationship with my two sons. Those may sound straightforward, but they're not straightforward. They're actually very profound to write those down, because I'll use an example. I traveled to Tenerife in December, and I planned that trip, but I had to force myself to actually go through with it and measure it against my choices, because everything in my ego was saying, I don't have capacity, don't have the time, too much money, so many excuses. But then I wrote down my choices, and I measured it. I was like, no, I've got to actually override my ego telling me not to go, and I went, and I really, really, really loved my journey, So that's just a short example, but this is a daily thing in your life. You've got to write down your guideline for what I want to do in life, and be mindful enough to understand when your ego plays up and says, oh, but this is the story. So that was the heart, so you can read that, but basically it's really writing down what you want to achieve, and it's really a mindfulness. You've got to. It's not something you can come up with straight away. They did a guided meditation with us, and it took some days. We refined it, and we ended up coming up with a list. And that list may change. It's not for always like that. It can change, but it's very important. Very few people actually write it down. You can't read this, but basically it says my skills, talents, and attributes. my true nature, and my gifts of my dark side, and that those are all three elements that come in to define your purpose. And the last one, part of the course, was once we've written down this list of what you really want to achieve in life, is how do you actually stay on course, and how do you actually achieve going there? Because it's like your default behavior, and this is something that I'll quickly explain. If you wake up in the morning, and this is a fact, you are in your default programming straight away. You've got to somehow get out of that and get into your intuition, right? Your intuition, I read this book, The Road Less Traveled, and he drew a picture of our mind as like a massive circle like that, and our conscious mind is tiny bubble within. We've got all this potential, and you've got to tap into that. And some people call it your heart, some people call it, your intuition, but you've got to tap into that. Now, if you wake up in the morning, you're in your default straight away. And if you just open your laptop and start Instagramming or whatever, it's not the right way of starting your day. You're going to just be in your ego from there on in. So you've got to break that. You've got to go and be in nature, do something that's really, getting you into a mindful space. And that's what we call the structure and discipline. And it takes a couple of things. It's things like meditation. Meditation is probably the best tool, into mindfulness. It's a great way to start your day. Yoga, exercise, being in nature, playing tennis would be good. So this is a little picture, but basically what this explains is your current reality enforces your beliefs, and this is like where we're stuck, and we've got to get to where our heart wants to go, and you've got to break this cycle that creates this, and it's called soul tension. So it's just about, and it's a daily practice. It's really getting out of that cycle of, your thoughts create your reality. It's very true. The lens that we see the world through is different for all of us, right? You can think South Africa is such a dangerous place. It is like, it's not worth living here. Or you can think it's the most wonderful place. It depends on whether you read News 24 or you follow the green room. You know what I mean? Like that's the thing. And that's what I refer to as discipline. You've got to be disciplined. We almost can't trust ourselves, what you let in. You've got to be very disciplined in the people that you hang out with, the conversations that you have. You've got to be disciplined with those things because it influences us, whether you like it or not. It's going to. So hanging around with positive people is going to be good for you. Not opening News 24 too often, because then you're going to start reading, because that's only 2% of the news in any way. You never read the good news in there. So that's a very important thing. So just to conclude, I went on this journey, and it was pretty amazing. I really read a whole bunch of books that were really profound to me, and there are some of them. The Power of Vulnerability. Brené Brown was a huge influence on my life. She wrote a book called Daring Greatly, which was incredible as well. Road Less Traveled is probably my top book of all time. I can recommend that highly. It speaks a lot about the unconscious, clarity and connection. Young Pablo, he's basically a poet. It's a great book. He brought out a new one now. Viktor Frankl, Man's Search for Meaning, great book. He was a Holocaust survivor and a psychiatrist, and he wrote about how he saw the world. I did the Heartbreak course. For anyone that ever goes through a divorce, that's the one to read. Gillian Turecki, it's an incredible workbook that you go through, and you're actually forced to journal and talk, actually go into knowing yourself better. Simon Sinek is a little bit more businessy, but he's got two main books. Start with the why. It's like focusing on the why before you think about the what and the how. And The Infinity Game, which is more a businessy book, but fantastic for me. Sapiens, I don't know if you guys have read that fantastic book. The Enneagram test that I recommend is the one below, to find out your core false beliefs. And that is me. Thank you very much. I just know of it. I don't know the details. But I think this is generic principles. You'll find it a lot in the yin yang sort of that Eastern philosophies as well. Definitely, yeah. No, post-divorce. Yes. So what I did was I came here like in my first year of divorce, or my first 6 months, I was at home and I did a number of stupid things and and then I came, and I couldn't travel, it was COVID. And I came to J-Bay for a month plus, and it was incredible. I met such a lot of very cool people, and that's why I fell in love, and that's why I invested in J-Bay even. So now I have a house here, and yeah, it's been pretty incredible. Surfing is obviously a big part of my life. Sort of built my life around it, and I find that as a structure as well. Like in the mornings, even that people think it's like easy to just go surf. You've got to discipline yourself as well there. You've got to get up and be in the water. This photo was taken, I was surfing with Marnus. We were and Dion Latergan took this picture, and when I was in Tenerife, he sent it to us. But this was at 5 in the morning. It's the best way to start your day because it's like it aligns you. You get out of that ego story and you tackle the day, properly. And it's a constant.
So I have a two-year-old son, and one of the things I found is he's so similar to me in so many ways, and it's almost like been kind of a relief for me because I've realized in some ways that there were certain things of my personality that I really didn't like, and then I saw it in him instantly. He seems like very competitive, and he really likes people. Like I feel like he likes other people more than he likes me. And the question was it seems almost because one of the things you said is that it's like you're believing these lies that lead to your personality forming in a certain way. But in my son, it's almost like it feels like it's built into the framework of who he is. And maybe the lies are like pitfalls for that personality. Does that make sense? So it's like his personality is away, and then the lies are like easy pitfalls for that personality type. So he's a competitive guy, and so the lie he would believe is that he's not good enough because he didn't win. So it's almost like a reverse way of looking at it. It's like his personality is like a framework, and the lie that he could believe is that he's not good enough.
I think that's exactly it. You compensate. So your personality, you almost do the opposite. You know what I mean? Of the core belief, of the false belief. Yeah. So if you are, and by the way, it's not a thought, it's a feeling. It's like you feel it. You feel I'm not good enough. It's like something you can't put words to it. Yeah, it's a narrative, but it's like you can't put words to it because it's a feeling. We struggle, so I've signed the psychiatrist divided it up into 9, but it's fluffy. It's but I think that at 2 years old you would already have that. So it's not something that you develop over time. You gain that the day you are in your individuation. That's what they explain. So, but I think it's a little bit of nature and nurture in that time. So I do think there's a nature element and then there's a nurture element. But in that time when you get separated from your mum, you now have this, why did she leave me? And now you start compensating. So he's competitive, of course. I think it's a number 3, by the way. We can actually quickly check if it's the competitive guy is I'm not good enough. Exactly. I'm not good enough. Yeah, I'm number 3. And you can see there he's going to be overachieving, competing, wanting to stand out. flying high, burning out, avoid failure at all costs. I've got a guy that works for me as well that he's like this. It is insane how competitive that guy is. It's like insane, and he'll always want to like, and he takes it personally. And titles are important for him. He wanted to like a specific title. I'm like, title. I don't want a title because I'm not allowed to shine. No title for me. You know what I mean? Like, it's completely the opposite. Does that make sense? So I was hurting, eh? It was a very, very tough time in my life.
Sorry, talking to a divorce guy as well.
Yes. Yes. So you know the journey. So I actually, when I hear divorce now, I'm like, you can ask Marnus, because Marnus is also divorced. And when I hear divorce, my ears prick up, and I reach out to those people because I know how lonely it was. So I was like trying different things. I didn't go on a massive drinking spree or anything like that. But what I did do, for instance, is I stopped drinking because I wanted to. I made a study of it, but a lot of those resources that are listed at the end, I read all those books. I went on this journey, and I looked at a number of things, and I think most of them I actually did and were successful at, but the other things that I did that probably was like wrong. I went into a rebound relationship, for instance, straight away with this woman, and it's so funny when they posted, all my exes contacted me in that time. So she's like, I hope I wasn't part of your midlife crisis. What the hell? Like, what is this now? Like, can we listen, please? Even my ex-wife contacted me. It's like, how can I like listen to your talk? So, got a video. Yeah, we all have a video. Janzi, does that answer?
Yeah, I was born with a midlife crisis.
We all are.
I think we'll probably take one more question and then leave it at that.
Yo, the number of things. Like I was very involved in my business. I sort of tapering that down now, looking at other things. I think it's more subtle. It's like, all I can say is I'm so happy, like so happy. It was such a dark time, and when I sort of got through this and I understand myself, it's much easier for me in my daily life now to say, oh, but this is like, this is why this is coming up. It's fine. It's bullshit. I'm gonna I'm gonna go this course, and I direct a lot of my decisions now based on my list and discard the ego. Where it's previously I would just like. I wouldn't know. Like, I'll just do whatever I think. And by the way, it wasn't all bad. It was actually quite good. So the ego is not bad. Like, that's the other thing. I never mentioned this, but the ego is your way of navigating through this world, and it actually stands you in good stead in life in general, normally, But it's where it holds you back from achieving your kingdom, where it doesn't serve you, and that's when you need to know. This is now not good. So in my life, I made a number of things. I invested in a house in J-Bay. I would never have done that. Ever. Like, it was such an oddball thing for my personality. Eh? What did you say? I know. It's the best thing. It makes me so happy. It makes me so happy. But that's the thing. Like, I wouldn't have done it. Not forced myself, but I knew I'm going to do it. And, some tangible things, that I've traveled a lot, like, that I also didn't do. I never traveled, I never allowed myself, so I'm not allowed to shine, is a good one. I'll never fly business class, I promise you, I can't. I don't drive a fancy car, I can't. It sits in my personality, but you know what I mean? Like, it is insane. So I never traveled before I was 40, never once for pleasure, only for work, because I'm not allowed to shine. Now it's like, I know that of myself. Now I travel because I'm like, this year, where am I going? And I force myself to. So these are a few practical examples. But yeah, it's been good.
Cool, amazing. I think we'll leave it at that. Malan, you're around for the month, right?
I am.
Probably find you in the water in the morning.
In the water, and we're going to play some table tennis, and we'll be around.
Okay. Thanks so much for sharing all of this with us.
Thank you, everyone. Cool.